Go ahead and be seated. This morning is a special day here at Cypress Creek Christian Church. We are doing our external ministry fair. This notion that X marks the spot that God just might be calling you to. That ministry, that opportunity, that program that is going to touch a life. It is a pleasure to have Commissioner Cagle with us this morning, but also representatives from different ministries that this church has helped start, ministries that we have supported, and ministries, again, that might just be that X to which God is trying to lead you to. So be very aware of what God might be doing. This morning we are going to look at the 12th chapter of the Apostle Paul's letter that we know as Romans. The first two verses say, "I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect." Peter Arnett was a TV journalist for years, and he tells of being in the Middle East, actually on the West Bank in a small town, when a car exploded. He got to the scene, and there were people that were clearly injured and others who were dead. He came around a corner, and there stood a man with a young girl in his arms. The girl was bleeding and unconscious, and before Peter could say anything, the man holding this lifeless body in his arms said, "I can't make it through the checkpoints. She needs to get to the hospital. Can you take us? Will you take us with your press pass? You can get through the checkpoints." And before Peter could even respond, he started walking to his car, moving quickly there. He opened up the back door, and the man with the lifeless body climbed in. He ran around, got in the driver's seat, and started driving. He got through the checkpoint, but the entire time the man in the back seat was going, "Can you go faster? Can you go faster? I think she's slipping away. Can you go faster?" They got to the hospital. They took her in, and the nurses and the doctors grabbed her and took her back into the operating room. And there stood Peter with this man. They stood there in silence for about 20 minutes when finally the doctor came out and said, "There was nothing we could do. I'm sorry she died." The man just dropped to his knees in tears. And Peter knelt down next to him and put his arm around him. And searching for words, he said, finally, "I don't have a clue what it is like to lose a daughter." To which the man wiped the tears away and he said, "Oh, sir, the young girl was Palestinian. I'm a Jew. I think her parents may have been killed in the blast. But there comes a time," he said, "when any child is our child. When any man or woman is our brother or our sister. There comes a time," he says, "there comes a time." In 1969, a movie came out titled The Royal Hunt of the Sun. It wasn't the best movie in the world, but it's the story of a 16th century Spanish explorer named Francisco Pizarro. And there's a point in the movie where they have come to South America, and they are walking through what would be the mountains of Peru, trying to get to their destination, and they come to a great cavern, and there's no way they can cross except there is a rope bridge. But they don't know how old it is. They don't know how long it has been there. And so Pizarro comes up and he kind of shakes it to see how it is, but he steps back. And he looks at all the soldiers standing behind him, and they're also looking a little uneasy, a little nervous. He looks back at the bridge, and then he glances past all of his soldiers to two men at the back of the group, two priests that had traveled with them from Spain. And he looks at the two of them and says, "And the church will lead us." And the two priests make their way through the crowd to the rope bridge and begin crossing, and the others follow behind. The church will lead. We are called. And historically, Cypress Creek has been that place, that community that has given leadership, that has helped give birth to these incredible ministries that are touching lives. Because we know that every child is our child. That every man and every woman is a brother and a sister. I invite you to join your voices as we continue in song.
Brothers, let us come together, walking in the Spirit. There's much to be done. We will come reaching out from our comforts, and they will know us by our love. The time is now. Come, church, arise. Love with His hand. See with His eyes. Bind it around you. Let it never leave you. And they will know us by our love.
My name is Jack Cagle. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. What a privilege and an honor to be in your midst today and to share in this ministry, this external ministry, as your pastor has led you. It is that type of vision that we need to have more and more of, and you should be very proud of your pastor and your leadership teams for calling you to do more than just to be a church within the four square walls of this place. For too long, our society has gotten to a spot where we draw imaginary internal lines. The church has drawn a line at the edge of the church sanctuary and said, beyond here we will not go. And oftentimes government has drawn an imaginary line that says we will not go anywhere near where we think it might be the church's responsibility. And therefore a separation gap has occurred that's grown wider and wider and wider. And people in need, our daughters, our sons, our uncles, our cousins, our neighbors, are falling into that gap to where they need your help and the government's help working together to make sure that no one gets left behind and injured. And to me, it thrills my soul when I hear of a church that says no more. It is our job to be salt and light to our communities, and we want to go out and to make sure that we can make a difference. And this church has historically held that calling tight and near to its heart, and it is such a delight to see that it continues in that pathway. You know, government isn't designed to be a separated zone or a difficult thing in terms of our work. And if you take a chapter past that, which your pastor shared with you a moment ago in Romans chapter 12, and just flip over a chapter in Romans 13, you would hear the Apostle Paul telling us, for government is God's servant for your good. And so what that means is we need to work together to make sure that we can be that good government that you desire and that you need and that you call us accountable to be. When I first got to be your servant as the county commissioner of Precinct 4 about a year and 4 months ago, It caused a little bit of a problem for my daughter, Elizabeth. I call her Little Bit. I don't know if any of you were or have had that child that had that extra spark of spunk, but my Elizabeth was that one. She was the one that we started talking about terrible twos when she was 10 months of age. She had a habit when I was a judge for 12 years to where if she got in a little she's 11 now, 12 now, pardon me, she'd get upset if I forgot that one extra year. When she got in a disagreement with her friends, she would cross her arms because her father was a judge, and she would say, "If you don't do what I say, my daddy will put you into jail." No matter what we did to correct her, we could not eradicate that out. When I became a county commissioner, it caused a consternation to her because she couldn't use that line anymore on her friends. But ultimately, she decided it was okay. We had to explain to her what Daddy does as a county commissioner. And it was the 3 Ps. We deal with our potholes, we deal with our parks, and we deal with the police functions. We help support the police functions in the community. And so she began to think, well, that's okay, because she loves parks, and she liked seeing all those crews driving down the streets that Precinct 4 on them that were mowing the grass or doing those things. So as long as she could see that, the threat of, you better do what I say or Daddy's lawnmower will get you, didn't quite have the same impact, but she still had something that she could connect. And in those avenues, those 3 Ps, if we could kind of run through them real quick, are areas to where we can work together. Larry Lipton, who is up here in your corner standing behind the camera, was the one who brought to me the idea of the broken window theory. You see, you are salt and light in a community, but it's difficult for you to keep this community to where it's a good and safe place to live for everyone when you allow things to be broken within it. If you allow that ditch to have trash in it, that sign that got vandalized, that pothole to continue in the road that hinders your transportation, there's this thing that sometimes occurs, and it's almost like the story of the Good Samaritan where everyone kept passing by. Your job as salt and light is when you see something to make sure that the governmental entities that are involved, the county commissioner's office knows. Occasionally we'll have someone that will call and say, this pothole or this thing's been here for a week, why haven't you done anything? And the answer would be, we didn't know. You, as the salt and light, need to take it upon yourself to be that good Samaritan that stops, to make that phone call, to make sure that whatever it is that is broken, that needs repair, that it's our function and role to work together with you can be done. Call your pastor. Call Larry or call us direct at the CAD department. Larry's got it on speed dial and memorized. And so that we can work together to make sure that this is a better community without the broken windows. With regard to our parks, we've been in partnership with your church for ages. Right over here in Collins Park, the work that we've done with the Pearl Fincher Museum, the work with the Barbara Bush Library and this whole area are things that we've done together to make sure that this is a shining light on a hill and that you have led the way to make sure that we have bettered our souls, our spirits, our community, our aesthetics, and our region. Pat yourself on the back. Thank you. Continue to work. Don't stop now. Continue to build into that process to make sure that we are servants everywhere. And then that third little P, the police functions. Commissioner's Court's job is to approve the budget of law enforcement and to get engaged sometimes to make sure that we have those rules and regulations that are available. The city of Houston, not too terribly long ago, began to crack down on some of the crimes and things that hurt the souls of our society. Human trafficking, the massage parlors, the things that we don't want to talk about in church because those are sinful things. Of course, if you open your scriptures and read what God and Jesus addressed directly, they were all there. And it was the church's responsibility then to engage and to eradicate by lifting up the souls. We have those responsibilities now. And some of the members of your church have been very, very involved in trying to make sure that our communities are safe places. We now have regulations to stop the human trafficking. Folks say that that is a victimless crime, and that is a lie. It's harmful to those that are trapped into that lifestyle. It's harmful to those that live and move by, and it's harmful to you when you take your children by and have to explain to them why that lady is dressed that way on your streets. And so it's very, very important that you continue those fights. We're engaged in the fight with regard to our homeless and with regard to the panhandlers, and sometimes those problems, along with the drug issues and mental health issues, are all looped together and working together. And you, as a church, are engaged in those ministries, and we need to work together to shorten that gap between what we can do and what you can do from a ministerial side to make sure that no one lives in that squalor of soul and spirit and in light. And so, as I stand before you today as a representative of the government, I also must, before I close my remarks, fulfill a promise that I made to my pastor. I go to Second Baptist Church at the Cypress campus, and the pastor over our overall groups is Dr. Ed Young, and he gives me permission once a month to go to other churches as long as I say the following words. From the saints of Second, greetings. And so, as I wind down my comments to you, I want to make sure that I'm not only as an ambassador of government in your wonderful mission of external ministry, but I'm also an ambassador to you of a fellow church, brothers and sisters in Christ. It's a blessing to be here today. You should be proud of your pastor, you should be proud of your church, and the best is yet to come. Don't stay behind the imaginary line. Keep being salt and light in our community. God bless you all.